Hello, everyone. My name is Zinita Masego. I am a Business Development Officer at the Sibande TVET College, Center for Entrepreneurship, Rapid Incubator. Well, I know for some of you, this might be a very long word that you do not even understand where is it coming from, or how does this department link to the TVET sector or the TVET college. Well, I come from a business incubator. We are situated in Ivenda in Mpumalanga. Our department specializes in business incubation. Basically, we give business support to small and emerging businesses. But then in this regard, as we are based in the TVET sector, we assist mainly our college students. Now, we have college students that have different courses that they do. We have students that are in the business sector, the business studies, and then we have students that are in the engineering studies. Now, previously, when you started school, it was all about, my child, go to school, get good grades, pass, get a good job. And then as time went on, when you went to school, that was the drive that you had. You always wanted to make your parents proud. You wanted to make yourself proud because it was all about getting good grades and bringing back them home, bringing back those grades at home. So now, looking at the current state in the country, we are facing challenges of unemployment, high unemployment amongst our youth as well. So now, the initiative came through from the Department of Small Business Development, where they actually merged with the Department of Higher Education to bring through the incubation, the business incubation or the business support for the students. So now the initiative came through to say, instead of our students going out to seek employment, yes, we've been preparing them for 12 years, another 4 years at the TVET for you guys to go and look for the nice jobs that you want. But then now what happens if our students do not get the jobs? Then the Center for Entrepreneurship was launched. Okay, then our center was, 2015, the center was based in Emelo. That was still the Center for Entrepreneurship. And then throughout the experience we were in Emelo, we assisted our students mainly with developing business concepts. Or maybe how do you take my idea, polish it, and make sure that I can start my own business. That's what most students were coming in to inquire, that, I have an idea, but where do I go? How do I start? They were asking a whole lot of questions, and then through that, we had to revamp our model, and then we ended up launching a business incubator within the Center for Entrepreneurship. So now, the Center for Entrepreneurship mainly focuses on the training component, and then there's an incubator where we have linked the two. So in incubation, mainly that's where we say, now we are going to nurture your business. We're going to hold your hand for a period of 3 years. So for 3 years, you're going to have this person who is looking after you, looking after your business, giving you all the support in terms of your administration, your funding application. Where do you look for opportunities? How do you look for opportunities? How do you pitch a business idea? When you look for funding, where do you go? Who are the funding institutions? So basically, all of those questions that you would have with relations to business. So now there was just that one department within Sibande TVET College that specializes in answering those questions or even assisting you for the period of 3 years. So basically for 3 years, we incubate your idea, but initially and make it a business. So for 3 years, we incubate the business. But then for 6 months, we'll be working on that idea just to understand that, is it sustainable? By sustainability, we mean that is there a market for that business? Is there a gap that you'll be closing? Now, will that business actually be sustainable? So that is we call that pre-incubation, before the business actually exists, whilst you are still testing it, making sure that you're validating that idea. We call that the ideation phase. So basically, therefore, you as a student, you'd be saying, I'm studying engineering. I recently finished my level 4 in NCV. I've been doing civil engineering. But then instead of me going to look for a job, I prefer to have my own business. Then that's where we come and check with you, we sit with you, and then we screen. So now we have the holistic overview on your idea, and also on the skills or the traits that you've recently just acquired from the college, you being an engineering graduate. So once you come to the center with an idea, you would fall under the pre-incubation. So now, as soon as we've actually done all of the screening in your business, and then now you're starting to make these transactions, the sales, then that's your business. Maybe it has to be making at least 37,000 in a quarter. So then as soon as your business starts making sales, you then graduate to incubation. So once you go into incubation, the services or even the support that you get, it's quite different from the support a person who's in pre-incubation would get. Because now we are really now focusing on the business that's already existing, that's already generating funds, that's already have created employment, and then now we're just basically expanding that business and making sure that, you know what, you grow and your business becomes sustainable and it doesn't like die within the first 2 years. So in our lesson for today, that was a very lengthy introduction, but I just needed to make sure that you guys understand that there's such a department within the TVET sector, or maybe let me just specify here at Sibande TVET College. Now, as I start with the lesson for today, mainly we're going to be focusing on an idea. Because when I speak to you, I know that I'm speaking to young people who are still, you know what, their minds, there's a lot of things going in your head and you're just thinking, should I look for a job? Or maybe I want to be an actor. Somebody else would be saying, no, I want to start my own business, but then where do I go? Where do I start? You know, then here I am today trying to just make you understand that for you to actually say you want to run a business, what should you look at? What areas should you pay attention to? So I'll be using one of the tools that we use at the center to screen all of our clients that would come in. So basically, as we start our lesson now, we're going to look at the business concept. That before a business can exist, what needs to be there? So now we are going to look at the 5 areas that you would need to maybe focus on when you're thinking of starting your business or when you are looking at your business idea. So now I'm going to take you through the growth wheel. This is one of the tools that we use at the center. So under growth wheel is divided into 4. But then now we're going to focus mainly on the area called business concept. So remember, this is now you when you're thinking of your business. That remember, I am an engineering graduate. I graduated in civil engineering, but I do not want to go and look for a job. I want to create my own engineering company. Now, that is the concept you're going to do. That is the business idea we're working on, and civil business. Civil engineering business. Yeah? So now, firstly, we're going to start on the business idea. In this area, this is what we're going to look at. What is it that the business wants to do? What is the idea? You know, when you sit at home or when you just finished with all of your studies, now you're sitting down and you look, what is it that I want to do? That is the idea. If I want to have a business, what is this business supposed to do? Then that is the business idea. So now here we're going to be just brainstorming. You are an engineering graduate and you want to have your own engineering company. So now that is your business idea. That is what we're going to be working on. Straight and simple, it is an engineering company, not a jack of all trades. Not that my business does everything, but in this case, there is a specific focus on this is an engineering company. And then now we're going to start looking at the product portfolio. What is this company going to be selling? What are the products that I'm actually going to develop, that I'm going to produce, or that I'm going to be supplying from my business? So now, here I am, the Zenita Engineering and Projects. Zenita now starts looking at the product portfolio. Probably when you are a civil student, maybe now you're looking at your general building, maybe you're going to specialize on building and also maybe supplying some of the building products, but then those are just 2. You're going to be supplying and you're going to be doing general building. But then now when we look at that in terms of the product portfolio, we also just, maybe we also focus on, are those 2 products enough to sustain the business? Now, if nobody comes in to maybe require the service of general building, what else can they be getting from my company? Yes, you've got the plan B now, okay? If they do not come in for the building, they can come in for the purchasing maybe of the raw material that you'll be selling. And then we also look at if they do not come for the two, what other gap is there within the sector that I'm in, which is the engineering and civil. We can also look at this. Remember, if you're going to be building a house, when you're building a house, you need more than just a person who's going to be doing bricklaying and mixing. You know, there's also your plumbing that comes into the picture. There's also electrical installations that come into the picture. So now that is where we're going to look at, okay, it's an engineering company, but then if I'm going to add in more products that complement the business idea, what can those products be? Maybe that's where we'd look at, okay, here you are with a civil business, it's going to do general building. General building goes with electrical, it goes with plumbing. Those are the other services that you can add on. And then, yes, you can supply and maybe manufacture your own raw material. So those are going to be your product portfolio, what it is that you're going to be selling. When you go out to your customers, what will you be telling them you do? And then the next time we look at your revenue model. Now that you know what your business does, what your business is going to be selling, now we look at in terms of your pricing. How are you going to price that? What are your current competitors, maybe, how are they structuring their prices? Are you able to compete with that? Can you go slightly higher? At what quality are they bringing those products? So basically here, you look at how is it going to affect, or what role to affect your revenue. Now we're looking at, now I am going to be supplying a raw material. Already you've got a lot of hardwares that are in that space, but then this one also could be your unique selling point. What makes you unique? Your prices can make you unique. Your quality that you sell can make you unique. But in terms of your revenue model, let's now look at holistically that how are you going to generate revenue? A business doesn't need one revenue stream. You need to find a way to multiple your revenue streams just to ensure that if they do not buy this product, this one is likely to bring in more income. Don't just depend on one. And then after that, we're going to look at your customer relations. Customer relations basically refers to who are your customers, your customer portfolio. Here I'm saying that I'm going to focus on general building, the construction sector. But then now when you go out and market this business, who are you marketing it to? Because now the approach that you're going to use, it's going to also determine the language or the marketing medium that you're going to use. So in terms of customer portfolio, this is where you're going to start segmenting your customers as to who you want to sell to. So in this case, you can decide that, no, I do not want to focus on individuals or maybe households, but in this case, I want to focus mainly on the bigger industries. I want to be building RDPs, or I want to go into the commercial space. So basically now this is where you're going to determine who are you going to be selling those products to. And then moving along to the last area, which is your market position. Now that you know what you're going to be doing, that's your business idea, you know your product portfolio, what products will you be selling, what are you sending to the market, and then you know your revenue model, that how are you going to make an income out of all of those products that you'll be selling, and then who you're going to be selling in. Number 4, that is your customer portfolio. So there is where we actually focus on who are your customers, and then now we move on to your market position, which is the last one, number 5. So currently we are still on the business concept, that yellow portion of our 360 screening. Now there, it's got 5 areas. The 5th area is your market position. Where are you located? Where can your customers find you? Are you accessible to the customer portfolio that you are actually selling to? So in terms of market position, at times a business can be in Joburg, we are in Mpumalanga, but you can still access their services in terms of the online platforms that are there for you to order. But then that also depends on the kind of business that you are doing. So it's just for you to understand that where is my business? Is it accessible? It shouldn't be in the wrong place. Just make sure you position your business very well. So now we are done with the business concept, and we're done with the business concept in growth wheel. And then now I'm going to be displaying the full business concept. So now the one that I just introduced you to, that is like the first phase. Whenever you're still thinking of having the idea, forget about the issue of funding. Put that behind you. You do not need to stress about funding whilst you're still thinking of the concept. So now we're here saying, let's polish the concept. Let's make sure that the business concept is in place. Because once you have that in place, there are other areas in your business can easily be addressed. Because, you know, when a business has a focus, it's much easier for us to even come through with interventions. Now, as we move on, we go through to your organization. Now, all of those areas now, the other 5 areas that I'm going to focus on, they are within the organization. Now, before the people get to see your company, you have to ensure that all of these areas are looked at inside the business. So now that you have your business concept, you know what it is that you want to do, we're going to look at the ownership and board. They're basically going to focus who owns the business. Now, before you ask yourself who owns the business, you should understand when you go into business, you can't go into business alone. And you can have as many as 10 different businesses. So under ownership and board, we look at who is going to own this business. Is it going to be you alone? Are you registering this business as a private company? Remember, in a private company, you can also be 2. If you want to be 2, you can. It's to a maximum of 20. So then basically in this regard, we look at your ownership. Who are you going to own this business with? Is it just you alone? Or is it just maybe you and a friend that you graduated with? Now, I'll make an example with this one, with one of our group in MLO campus in the college. We had students there. One of the students was actually studying, is a graduate of electrical engineering. He studied electrical engineering, and he got some experience. So then afterwards, he came through to the center and said, I would like to have my own business. But then the business that I want to have, it shouldn't be far off what I have studied. I have graduated in engineering. Now I am wondering that should I start a business in engineering? What is it that I'd like to look at? But also when I employ in my business, or if I'm going to have business partners, I want it to be other students that I have graduated with. Now remember, in the TVET, we've got business studies and then we've got engineering studies. So when you open a business, and if a student is going to come in with an idea and says, I want to work with the students that I've graduated with, bear in mind, in the business studies, we've got the course of our office administration, we've got a course for marketing, we've got a course for finance. Now, all of these courses, they are actually in a business, there's actually departments. There's a finance department, there's a marketing department, and there is an office administrative department. So with all of those departments already now, instead of him going to employ externally, he can actually get students who have qualified within the college to be part of the business. So then this student ended up registering his business, and then the office administrator was actually taken from one of our students, and then the marketing officer was also one of the college graduates, and the person who did finance for the business was actually one of the graduates. And then he also looked at, I'm doing engineering, but I did electrical. Now, most of the time I go and refurbish or maintain houses, and I do not know much about civil. And then that's why he's like, no, instead, let me get a student who also graduated in civil, just to complement my engineering company. So this is an engineering company that has employed 3 more graduates in their business space that are going to be making sure that the operations of the business are in place, and then they are the ones who are going to be out on the ground to make sure that the work is done. So now that all started as an idea that went through all of those 5 phases that we spoke about, and then now when it came to the ownership, this young man decided to register the company alone and employed these other graduates. And then as the company was running, after time, he was like, no, you know what? Because we're working so well, I'd like to bring them on board as partners instead of employees. So that's where we're going to start when we're speaking of organization under the maroon part of the growth wheel that is displayed on your screen. So in terms of ownership and board, how do you select the owners? What do you consider when you're looking for maybe owners or maybe partners in a business? And then the next component there, it's your employees. Right there, we're going to be focusing on the employees. That how do you employ? What phases do you go through before developing a post to say this post is vacant? Also taking into consideration, sometimes you could think that a post is vacant, but only to find that it is not vacant for full-time to be occupied full-time, but instead maybe it's a part-time post. So then when you come through to us, when we screen your business, we're going to look at that if you're saying there's a post that is vacant, what are the duties? What are the requirements? Are you even aware of how much the industry pays for that particular post, the gradings of a position? So that all of that will fall under employees. And with our current incubatees at the center, we ensure that all of them that have employed maybe people in their businesses, they've got employment contracts. So here we're looking at now formalizing the business. Instead of you running the business, informally, so where you just randomly do things. Now here we're speaking about a business that is now formal. By formal, I mean that the business is registered. It has all the legal documents. I'll actually go through this later on my presentation here. So now that you have a post that you'd want to advertise as vacant, what do you look at? You look at now, for how long do I need this person? Now, it could be for maybe temporarily, it could be a long term, or it could be maybe just a short-term contract. We also just try to assist you guys with structuring those contracts. And then we also look at your job descriptions. It is very important that you do not hire your cousin or your sister just because, you know what, there's that sister sitting at home that needs a job. It's not about that, but it's about just ensuring that you got the right person for the job. So there must be job descriptions, there must be responsibilities, there must be even the duration of the contract, basically how much the person must get paid. And then when you're done developing that particular post, and then we assist you to put it, to just advertise it. So that is just one of the services the center has, where we assist our own clients with marketing. So now that you have recruited the right person for the job, we look at the partnerships. So any business that exists, it doesn't exist on its own. There has to be people or other organizations or institutions that play a certain role that you benefit from as a business. So in terms of partnerships, you can have partnerships with your suppliers. You can have partnerships with maybe even funding institutions, or maybe a department like ourselves, the Center for Entrepreneurship, where we come in for the mentoring and the coaching. So basically in partnerships, it's a give and take. What do I get from you? What do you get in return? So then as we go through this, I am just going to be taking you through it step by step, just to make sure that you guys do not miss anything. So for today, this is where we are going to pause our lesson, and then hopefully I will be seeing you guys for part 2 of the lesson, where we're just going to recap and finish up this growth wheel that we are busy with, because as you can just see here, there's still a lot of areas that we need to cover. So maybe you can start noting certain questions that you have, and maybe on the next day we'll start to address and answer those questions. So far for today, as we are concluding our lesson, today we have covered growth wheel. So basically in growth wheel, that is where we looked at your business concept. This is the yellow part right here. Under business concept, there were 5 areas that we looked at. First being your business idea. What is it that you want to do? Secondly, being your product portfolio. What products do you want to sell? Product or service that you'd want to sell. And then next we looked at your revenue model. So basically, which are the revenue or income streams that you can introduce into your business. And then the fourth one was your customer portfolio. Who are your customers that you want to be selling to? And then lastly, that was your market position. Where will you locate your business? How accessible will your business be to the customer portfolio? And then lastly, we're busy now with the organization, where we're just discussing the internal maybe issues or internal areas that we need to focus on within your business when you're still starting, or even when the business exists. So then, as we have wrapped up this lesson for today, tomorrow we will continue with our part 2. So in part 2, that is when we're going to continue with the other areas that we haven't covered today. So maybe just kindly take note, and I hope as you are sitting at home and you are watching, you've got your notepad right next to you, and then you're just waiting for me as I take you through the growth wheel, or maybe just the 360 screening of a business idea. So thank you. Bye-bye.